What's going on, guys? Welcome to a special on-tour edition of The War Room with G.I. Mary Jane. That's war with 2 R's, where we talk about weed arrests and the ridiculous regulations that cause them, because one arrest every 50 seconds in what's supposed to be a free country is simply unacceptable. We're here fighting for your freedom. And we will be traveling the country following the Libertarian Party State Convention Tour during the primary season, because we are going to have to combat this at the federal level, folks. Let's just face it. Things seem to only be getting worse out there. I am in beautiful, sunny Ventura, California. It is still the crack of dawn, or not the crack of dawn yet. We're waiting for the sun to come up over the beach. And what better time to discuss the news? We're getting ready to hit the road and head on again to follow those Libertarian state conventions. We'll tell you more about that later on in the broadcast, but let's get straight into it. Like I said, you know, we've got the majority of the country with some sort of cannabis laws, whether it's medicinal or recreational, very dependent on what conditions you have. Hey, in my opinion, all cannabis use is medicinal. Even if you're using it to calm down at the end of a day, you had a hard day at work, and instead of cracking open that beer, you want to spark up a joint. Well, I got news for you, folks. That's anxiety relief. So in a side way, it's kind of medicinal. And considering, I'm preaching to the choir once again, considering that cannabis has never, ever killed anybody in the history of humanity, there is no reason it should be regulated. And folks, even if it has, only you get to decide what to put in your body. And no governing agency should be able to interfere in your affairs. So that being said, again, we're going to hop right into the news here. I feel like this one may just be the shot heard round the cannabis community. And unfortunately, I don't say that in jest. This one comes from News for Washington out of Maryland, which is my home state. This was published on January 27th. Tracy Wilkins, Darcy Spencer, and Matthew Stabley. And Gina Cook. I'm not really sure why it took 4 people to write this article. But it seems like the journalists at NBC for Washington were doing some excellent digging and collaborative team effort to try to figure out exactly what's going on. So the headline reads, "Officer charged with murder after shooting suspect inside cruiser in Maryland." I'm going to say that again. Officer charged with murder after shooting suspect inside the cruiser. For those of you who may not know what a cruiser is, it's a fancy word for a police car. The vehicle that is legally, and the only vehicle that is legally allowed to abduct you with the threat of violence from your home or from the side of the road. The subtitle here, or subheading, says PCP does not appear to be the cause of the suspect's erratic driving, and we'll get back to that later on. I'm going to go ahead and read down this. It says, a Prince George's County police officer who shot and killed a suspect who was handcuffed and wearing a seatbelt inside a police cruiser Monday night in Maryland is in custody and facing charges, police said. Well, I've got to stop and say I'm glad they're taking proactive actions here after Freddie Gray. How could one not? Goes on to say, Corporal Michael Owen Jr., a 10-year veteran of the department, is charged with second-degree murder, involuntary and voluntary manslaughter, first-degree assault, and use of a firearm in the commission of a crime of violence. Prince George's County Police Chief Hank Stwansky. I'm sorry, Chief Stwansky, if I am mispronouncing that. But this was what he reported to the local media. He says, I'm unable to come to our community and offer you a reasonable explanation for the events that occurred last night. Is what Swansea said on Tuesday. So this just happened on Monday. And again, this was in Maryland. Apparently the gentleman was pulled over. It says officers found the suspect 43-year-old William Howard Green of D.C. sleeping in his car nearby. Officers believe he was impaired, removed him from his car, handcuffed him behind his back, and put him in the front passenger seat of Owen's cruiser while waiting for a drug recognition expert to arrive. So they don't even know if the substance was PCP at the time this is going on. Mercy. There's so many things wrong with this, and we only have limited time in the broadcast. Says here that Owen, the corporal, got into the driver's seat next to Green, who is the suspect, the victim in this case now. Putting a suspect in the front of a cruiser that does not have a partition between the front and back seats allows the officer to maintain control of the suspect. This is according to Swansky. A witness said he heard gunshots about 5 to 10 minutes later and went to the cruiser and saw Green still handcuffed in the passenger seat and suffering from gunshot wounds. And this is according to police documents. So there you have it, folks. A veteran of 10 years on the force. And surprise, surprise, his body cam was not turned on. The story goes on to report. But a 10-year veteran of the force, you would assume that after that amount of training, that, by the way, your taxpayer dollars go towards funding, that after that amount of training, you would practice good enough judgment to not fire off your weapon, especially in an instance where you're dealing with somebody who is suffering from some sort of substance abuse. Compassionate care is what's needed in that case. Without compassionate care, those people will never have the opportunity to be the productive members of society that they could be. Not only that, but they'll continue to be a financial drain on this already halfway, I'm being conservative in these estimates, this already halfway broken, bankrupt system that we're living in today. So this just happened in Maryland, and this one kind of hits me really close to home. And why? Well, for those of you who don't know, I'm the daughter of a Baltimore City police officer who served his community of Northwest Baltimore for 23 years. Now, my father was a pastry chef. He used to make us homemade bread. Growing up, I didn't even know what packaged bread was for a long time. And he got drafted into Vietnam as military police, and being a servant of his community and a sheer giver at heart, he took the opportunity. He was military police for Vietnam. Never saw combat, from what I understand. But they told him he could retire at an early age, I believe 50, if he continued to serve on the police force when he came back from Vietnam. So he made the decision to go ahead and do that, and through it was able to take care of myself and my mother and our family. But in the mid to late 90s, he started to see the corruption, and luckily he was getting very close to his retirement. But I remember him coming home very angry one night. You see, every year the police recite this credo. Just a ceremonial, a reading of the mission statement, if you will. And that mission statement, that credo, used to include the verbiage, to serve and protect the community. Now, again, my father being a pastry chef, loved serving his community. He was absolutely your Andy Griffith type, and instead of slapping you with fines and fees and all sorts of charges and making your life worse, if he found you wasted, inebriated, drunk behind a dumpster in Northwest Baltimore one night, he would take you home and make sure that you got safe. Well, that day he came home angry, more angry than I ever seen him. He's a very level-headed gentleman after his training in Vietnam and his training on the old police force. Well, that year they took to serve and protect the community out of the credo, and they replaced it with to uphold the law. And my father was livid. It was then that he started to teach me my rights, to not talk to officers, to remind me that I don't have to answer every single question asked of me, that the line of questioning is reserved for the judges and not for the officers on the side of the road. And he taught me to always respectfully question authority, and I lived my life doing such. He retired. Unfortunately, the organization he served would not allow him to utilize cannabis at the end of his life, and He may still be with us if he were able to, but we'll save that story for another day when we talk about the veterans and the service members who also, no matter how angry we are at them, deserve the right to decide what they put in their bodies. Could you guys just imagine if all the officers out there, instead of doing Xanax and antidepressants that may or may not work with their systems, were being able to utilize cannabis? How much better of a world it would be on the streets, how much more empathetic these individuals might be, and how more able they would be to help and serve their community, to serve and protect. That's what we're taught. We entrust these people with our lives because we are led to believe that they will serve and protect us in our time of need, but it is turned into something oh so different. Just last week, the day before the last broadcast aired, an awful story came out of Texas. So we've got a gentleman who lost his life because he was having a bad night on a substance that presumably was PCP in the state of Maryland. And not just this gentleman, but in Texas, and this comes directly from platoon420.com. This was our take on it. 3-year-old and 16-year-old shot by police during drug raid in Texas. So this was published on January 24th. I know it's a little late, but obviously it's related. We've got 2 police officer involved shootings in less than a week's time in 2 different areas of the country, all over prohibition laws. And considering it's in Maryland and Texas, which couldn't be any more different in terms of regulations, the way people live, the way the police interact with their community, considering this is in 2 completely different regions of the country, you can't assume that it's an isolated problem. A 3-year-old little girl also this week got shot, a victim of prohibition. Texas police invaded the home of a man for suspicion of drug possession. Inside, a 16-year-old boy was watching his 3-year-old little sister when police broke into a window unannounced and opened fire. The little girl is currently being treated for a bullet wound to her back. And I got to apologize that I don't have any more information on this story. Like I said, we are on tour right now and my scheduling is limited. I needed you guys to help me out. If you see any information, don't ever hesitate to put it in my lap. info@platoon420.com. That's INFO at PLATOON 420, our favorite number.com. So the original story came from CBS 7. Says the girl's family reached out to CBS 7 and told us this all started when officers came into their house without announcing themselves. Texas Rangers said they're not releasing any details for now on how a 3-year-old ended up in Lubbock Hospital with a bullet wound in her back. She's in a lot of pain, the girl's father, Luis Gomez, said. She just won't stop crying. She's shaking. She just keeps screaming every 5 minutes. Doctors said it's going to be some kind of trauma, like she's going to be traumatized over it. I think what the doctors likely meant was that there was going to be lifelong physical trauma. You can't take a spinal cord injury like that and walk away from it unscathed. This little girl is forever changed. She won't be able to grow up and play softball like most little girls. She's not going to grow up and be able to do ballet because of her previous spinal cord injury. That she wasn't even associated with the alleged crime. And in this case, the crime had no victim involved and therefore should not be considered a crime. The child's father said his 16-year-old son was home alone with the girl when something crashed into their window and he heard the front door kicked in, so he thought someone was robbing us or something, Gomez goes on to say. So he runs over there. I guess he had an object in his hand, and I don't know what he had or what. And when he ran away, they opened fire on him. So this report came into CBS News 7 in Texas and was reported on January 24th. Again, I apologize that I don't have any more information on this tragedy and how this beautiful 3-year-old little girl is doing, who even in this hospital bed looks beautiful and at peace. And I hope that we can create that peace for her and make it a reality. And I hope that one day she grows up to tell her story to the community about how herself, just an innocent little girl, sitting there playing with whatever little girls play with these days. Next thing you know, there are men with guns wearing badges who she is taught in school are there to protect her, coming into her house, assaulting her and her big brother, and shooting in the back. Reportedly, the brother was grazed in the arm by a bullet too. So you see, this isn't getting any better, folks. I want you to research. Homework assignment for the week. I want you to research the violence that alcohol prohibition caused. We all know about Al Capone and the mafia and how they capitalize. Well, now the cartels are capitalizing. Criminals will capitalize on whatever they can. And we are giving them this open space to take a piece of nature or any other substance and utilize it for their own evil agenda. And it's not just the cartel. The police are the greatest instigators of violence, especially gun violence, in this country. So to anybody who's watching that may be a gun rights activist, I think everybody's clear on my take on this. I am a very live and let live libertarian. And you deserve the right to own and consume whatever you like, as long as it is done responsibly and without hurting others, as long as you're not victimizing anybody. But to all you gun rights activists who are listening, to all you gun safety activists, when you speak about gun violence, when you speak about all the lives lost as a result of these weapons, that I've got news for you. If you make them illegal, just like prohibition, we're going to have a problem. But when you think about it, I want you to really, really dig into it next time and look up the stats on police gun violence on a yearly basis. We're running out of time for the news, and normally we would move into the activist spotlight of the week, and we're going to get to that. But first, what in the actual fuck? What in the actual fuck? And my question for what in the actual fuck this week goes to the judge presiding over the Danny Trevino case in Lansing, Michigan. Who is Danny Trevino? Well, let me back up and let me start with the story. So in Michigan, cannabis is legal for recreational and medicinal sales. And Danny Trevino is one of those guys who's putting his life on the line and standing up in front of federal regulation while federal prohibition is still enacted, and he is providing cannabis to his community, knowing the risks. Well, the Lansing State Journal published on January 29th, and this came directly from the Associated Press. Judge sentences Lansing man for medical marijuana sales. Federal laws have not changed. Now, before I go on, I want to bring up the Cole Amendment. This is something that was enacted years ago, that was vetoed and put back into power, and most recently was in the news because Trump announced that he would respect the Cole Amendment. What the Cole Amendment is an amendment that says that no federal funding can be allocated on pursuing charges on any state that is operating their cannabis business within state regulations, which Mr. Trevino was. I'm going to go ahead and just read the Associated Press release. A Lansing man who owned medical marijuana shops around Michigan has been sentenced to nearly 16 years in federal prison. For years, marijuana has been legal in Michigan to ease the effect of certain illnesses, long before recreational marijuana was approved in 2018. But federal investigators say Danny Trevino operated outside of medical marijuana law. So we're going to stop right there and go back to the Cole Amendment. Federal investigators. I'm going to go ahead and safely assume that these investigators were not operating on a voluntary basis. What in the actual fuck, federal government? You're telling me that after we spent all this money approving an amendment that says that you cannot use our hard-earned taxpayer dollars to come after us, the tax-paying citizens, utilizing the legal medical cannabis market, in our own states within their regulatory restrictions, which in some states is ridiculous. What in the actual fuck are we spending this money on an investigation for? Goes on to say, Trevino could possess small amounts of marijuana with his own medical marijuana card, but his criminal record prevented him from being a registered caregiver who could grow pot for others, the government said. Nonetheless, he had a thriving business. So, his criminal record, victimless crime, victim of prohibition, continuing to be the empathetic, caregiving human being he is, and thrive in the market for the benefit of the community. And because they harassed him in the past, they get to shut down all of his hard work and put all of his employees across the state of Michigan out of a job, when right now we're screaming in America about obtaining 100% employment, which, sidebar, we don't want that. You're telling me we want everybody in America to work and nobody to stay home with the kids? Hello, you wonder why we have a suicide and overdose problem? Let's focus on the family a little bit here. But I digress. Obviously, sources that I talk to say that Trevino and his attorneys plan to appeal the case. Of course, Platoon 420 will be on top of this. If you have any information, again, send it our way. We cannot stand by idly any longer and let them regulate what we put in our body, when we can do it, how much we can do it. We can't do this. We made this mistake before. And then there was this whole civil rights movement that changed it. And now we are taking our civilization back in the evolutionary process by allowing these thugs to continue to harass us, even though we're within regulatory lines. What are these laws for? What are these people getting paid for? What is all this hard work going for if the laws are only going to be ignored? So you can ignore your amendments and your laws, federal government. But if we ignore your law, and I don't think that your law dictates substances, but if we ignore your law, we lose our freedom. And in the case of the Prince George's man in Maryland and the 3-year-old little girl in Texas, we sometimes lose our lives. So what in the actual fuck, federal government? We're going to be paying attention. We're going to be paying real close attention, because this simply cannot stand America. So that's all the time we have for the combined segment of the news and the what in the actual fuck moment. I wanted to talk about a story out of Louisiana where there is a veteran in jail on a life sentence for $30 worth of weed that he got busted with in the mid-90s. We will talk about that in a separate segment later on this week. Again, I want to save that for the special Veterans edition. But right now it's Super Bowl Sunday, and everybody is piling in front of their TVs to crack open a beer and worship people who get overpaid to do very little, if nothing, for their society. Give them bread and circuses and they will comply. How's the statement go? I think a lot of us need to sit down and spend some time studying Roman history, because they're still doing it to us. Rome burned, and we're real close to that. Let's not get catastrophic. We, the people, Whitney said it. We were the children and now we're the future. And I like to think that the art community taught our generation well. Those 80s and 70s babies. Taught them about togetherness and community. And we're going to do it. We are bright, shining lights. We are beacons for everybody in our neighborhood, not just in the activist community. If you're an activist, it's not something that you choose. It's something that you are, something that you're born with. And it's not something that you should hide when you're at work or when you're at the gas station. You be your activist self, as loud and proud everywhere that you are. And what is an activist? An activist is somebody who cannot stand idly by when they see injustices being played off. So all of you listening, simply for listening and taking the time to educate yourselves, you're activists. And you are changing the world. But again, that's all the time we have for the day. I gotta get on out of here. I wish I could zoom back and show you this awesome makeshift studio we've got going on here aboard No Force One. Make sure you visit thefreedomline.com. That's TheFreedom line, LINE.com. Because we are out here searching for your freedom. And if you want to run in to us at one of the many state conventions between now and May, go ahead and sign up for the newsletter so you know where we're going to be. And I'm getting that wrap it up signal in the back. You guys, we've got to go. We've got to head on down this highway. I will see you next time. Coming up, as soon as we get off of this road, we're going to stop for a minute. And we're going to give Candice Dyer a call at the Texas Hemp Convention and see how she's doing. Well, we got to head on out. You guys, we will see you next time. Peace and love.
I'm not worried about the worries of the world anymore. I'm gonna get in the jacuzzi. I wish that everybody would just chill the fuck out and get busy being happy. We need a spiritual revolution. I believe you, Russell Brand. We need food and we need shelter, friends and family at hand. And apart from that, we don't need nothing except a whole lot of loving. Well, the NASA think tanks think that we will fall just like the Romans did and other civilizations before them that have now extinct. The well runs out, the fuel runs dry. There's not enough food to feed us all. Our leaders blindly lead us, claiming it's business as usual, while saving up the scraps for themselves until the shit falls off the shelves. Well, I'm not worried about the worries of the world anymore. I'm gonna get in the jacuzzi. I wish that everybody would just chill the fuck out and get busy being happy. We need a spiritual revolution. I believe you, Russell Brand. We need food and we need shelter, friends and family at hand. And apart from that, we don't need nothing except a whole lot of loving. And apart from that, we don't need nothing except a whole lot of loving.
All right, let's just see if we can get a signal here. I am out here at the beautiful Garden of Freedom. Myself and team and the Fed just took a little pit stop, and we're going to make a call and try to get Candice Dyer on the phone, the activist of the week, who is doing awesome things in Texas and nationwide. Right now she's at the Texas Hemp Convention. And let's see if I can get a signal here. We'll find it. We'll find it because we have the technology. Oh, 3 bars. Hold on, guys. Hold on, guys. We'll get there. I think we... I think we may just have it. Haha, let's give her a call.
Hello.
Hey girl, how are you doing?
Hey, so good to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. I know you're at the Texas Cannabis Convention. What's the exact name of the convention you're
Uh,
at?
Texas Hemp Convention 2020.
That's great. And you guys are there tabling for the Human Solution International, which we love to feature on this show, all the work
Yes,
that HSI does. Yes, monumental.
in on, and we've got flyers over here for them, and we got our whole table set up right now, and we've been doing interviews all day.
Oh, that's so great. It's awesome when you get to hear from the people. So your group is called Cannabis Open Carry Walk, which a
Yeah,
lot of people, myself included, I got this idea that everybody was walking around with cannabis and guns, which trust me, I would support wholeheartedly, but that's not what you guys do. Why don't you tell everybody who's listening a little bit about your organization?
right. Yeah, we're a small grassroots movement, and we open carry signs and information. Although our group was started by a few of those people from Open Carry, so we have joined together a couple times with the gun crew, and the libertarian gun crew for walks and did guns and weed. It's basically just to get people's attention. You know, free the weed. People think, oh, what, free weed? And they just stop and they talk to you. Or cannabis open carry walks, it gets them to stop and be like, do you carry weed on your walks? And that opens up that conversation. And so it's really that kind of a shock you name, and that's how we get people's attention. But yeah, we're a grassroots movement. We go out all over Texas, well, now internationally, since we joined up with Human Solution as their Texas chapter. But we go all over and do walks. And what a walk is you get out there with your signs, your flags. We carry information, telling people about reefer madness, telling them that they were lied to, telling them how they can write their senators and write their congressmen, telling them when the next bill is coming out to go testify on. And of course, we go do that too. We just had the public hearing hemp meeting for regulations and stuff, and we went to that because we want to keep a really close eye on what these regulations are that they're putting on our medicine. And some of them are so ridiculous. But yeah, that's what we do. We just tell people about and do what we can to change cannabis prohibition because we believe it's bullshit.
Yeah, it is totally. You mentioned regulations, which is the second R in War Room, is what that stands for. The ridiculous You're right.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's almost like, do can I smoke in my apartment, or do I have to be outside or in a box with a fox on Tuesdays only during a full moon? It's insane.
Yes, the regulations are bullshit. Cannabis has caused 0 deaths. It shouldn't be regulated at all, in my opinion. It should grow like tomatoes in our backyard. And I will continue to fight until we get homegrown in Texas, because that's the only thing that's right for people. They shouldn't
Yeah.
have to pay big pharma for their meds when you can grow it and it ain't hurting nobody.
No, I agree with you with the whole. It's funny. I was just talking to somebody on the road, and I mentioned regulate like tomatoes. They said, "Do you have any idea how difficult it is to grow tomatoes over a certain amount?" And I'm like, I know. See, this is the whole point. We want it regulated like tomatoes, but even that, the regulatory restrictions on growing your own natural medicine,
Right.
be it
No, yes, you
cannabis,
are absolutely right.
lavender, it's everything. It's almost like they don't want us to be healthy. It's
Yeah,
almost like they want us
exactly.
on those pills.
They're poisoning
It's a
us.
shame.
They're trying to kill us slowly because they don't want to have to take care of us when we're old. They
Yeah.
want to cut us off before we get there. They just want our check. They want our money, our taxes, and then
Yeah.
we're like cattle to them. We get raised up to go to school and be trained to do what they want us to do from the very beginning, and then we go and work, and they keep us so busy and so in debt that you never think about what freedom is being taken away because you're just trying to keep up with what you're supposed to do the next day, And then when you get too old to work, you think they want to give you that SSI? Hell no, they ain't going to give you disability. They're going to make you the way that you get disability now. You have to not work for 2 years. Who in the hell cannot work for 2 years? What are they going to do? Just live on the street for 2 years? And then after that, once you do get Social Security, Then you got to wait another year just for medical. You're on there because you're at a disability. Medical is the most important thing. It's crazy.
It is. We really do need to sit down and talk about our entire healthcare system. It seems like doctors are more anxious to give us pills than to say, well, hey, you've got to watch your diet. You know, if you're not getting this vitamin and that vitamin, this protein, this nutrient every day, your body's not going to be in perfect homeostasis and you're not going to be healthy. And part of your body's, you know, regulatory system is your endocannabinoid system. And,
Right,
you know,
right.
I can't even necessarily, we all know that prohibition was started for racist reasons, but let's pretend for a minute that it wasn't. Let's pretend that our, you know, great grandparents' generation, they just didn't know any better and they were really trying to do something good for our, well, now with the advancement of science, we know. So even assuming that it wasn't a ridiculous racist, you know, effort back in 1937, it's time to evolve. It's time to recognize what we see in front of us and allow people to be as healthy as they can. And it makes you wonder. It's you mentioned getting up and working for money. We've also been trained to think that money's the greatest resource in this society. And I know us in the cannabis community being so affected with poverty in the terms of money, you know, speaking of money, for so long, we've learned that it's not the most important resource. And there's a trade and barter system that goes unspoken in this country. It's just part of being human. And I hope that through the cannabis movement, through breaking through this stigma of prohibition, we can, you know, teach society that they'll be like, how'd you guys survive so long? You couldn't get a job. That you owed the, well, yeah, you're right. I had no money. But look, we all got here and we all persevered, and you can too. Well, yeah, I'm out here in the Garden of Freedom, which is in Juniper Wood, Arizona, which actually doesn't have a standing state government. So people are allowed to live like this. I'm standing in an unbuilt earth ship right now, which is made out of all material that would otherwise be thrown away. So completely self-sustainable. And this is what we as Americans are capable of doing without regulatory measures. And it goes above and beyond cannabis. And this is what I'm learning as, you know, as you start to have that cannabis discussion. It's not just our community, our cannabis community. It's the human community being affected.
If you think about it, and that's why I love this Walk for Change that's coming up, because if you think about it, cannabis really is involved in all the human rights. Your senior citizen rights, it helps them. They're sick, they need medicine. Your vet rights, same thing. They're sick, they need their medicine. You've got plastic. Come on, that shit don't buy. It's not biodegradable. And you got hemp. Hemp will fix that. So cannabis is like involved in all these different human right aspects, if you think about it. And so that's why I like this walk so much, because it's joining every one of those people together. And it's saying, look, no, we're done asking. We're done freaking getting our rights taken away. And we want our rights back. And we're not going to stand for it anymore. So that's kind of what this walk is for. And I'm really excited about it.
Me too. Me too. And I want to thank you. I mean, what you're doing is empowering so many people that otherwise would be terrified to come out and speak in favor of our rights. We've been taught for so long that we shouldn't question authority. And through this movement, through the Walk for Change, for those of you listening, Cannabis Open Carry Walk is also involved with the Walk for Change. You've got to be tired of me saying it by now. Walk number 4, change.us. So thank you for being an inspiration.
The flyers that we're passing out here and telling everybody about it. So cool. No, but thank you, girl. No, you're doing a great job. Thank you so much. But well, I'm one of many. We got so many people, and then you're fighting. So I'm just a drop in the bucket of what's going on right now. It's just so beautiful to see all these people coming together. And man, it's like a family. It really is. We feel like we've known each other forever when you just barely meet somebody. It's just awesome. It's amazing.
It really is. It's I can't say it enough. And everybody that I talk to says the same thing. And you're right. We're all connected in some way that we don't even understand right now, but we still understand and accept. And I can't wait to see you out there on the road. We should be in Texas next month, I believe, for the Libertarian State Convention.
Let me know. I'll be out there.
Yeah. I'm roaming around with Team and the Fed. You can
come hang out on.
Unfortunately, I was really sick and had Andrea was sick whenever Peter and Helen got to go, or I would have went. I didn't want to get everybody sick, and
Yeah.
but I will definitely next time you're in town, go stop by and see you.
I'm glad you got better. It's going around. We got somebody sick in the bus right now, as a matter of fact. So
Yeah, I don't know
it's
what
funny.
that crud was, but it took forever to get rid of.
The cannabis community seems to get rid of it a lot quicker than the
They do.
not
They do.
cannabis community. So
Right.
kudos to us.
It's because we believe in that healthy alternative, and those prescriptions actually are so bad for you. They cause you to gain all this weight. And like when I got rid of my pharmaceuticals, I fucking just dropped in pounds. Like it just went away, and people were all asking me, "Are you on drugs? Like, why are you losing weight so fast?" And I'm like, "Oh, really?" None of y'all said anything about how I gained weight in a year, that much weight. You know what I mean? Being on pharmaceuticals. But the minute I lose it because I start smoking cannabis, then you're asking me if I'm on drugs, really.
Everybody's a critic. We got to get back to that live and let live society. And I think we're getting close. This younger generation, just especially with the internet and the fact that people are real on the internet. They really are themselves. I'm generalizing, not everybody, you've got your catfish out there, but people are able to be comfortable and say things that, we would have been told as children, oh, don't say that in public. You don't want to shock anybody. And having
don't
that
tell
freedom.
the neighbors, be quiet.
Right.
Don't tell them. I told my grandma, fuck the neighbors.
That's right. Fuck them. If they don't like fuck them, fuck them all, right?
Yeah. I don't care what they think. I'm going to do me no matter what,
That's right. Be shamelessly you. And I encourage everybody listening and watching, and I know you do the same, to do that. Be you. Even if I don't like who you are, be shamelessly you. And that's what is going to ultimately help us evolve, is when everybody is vibrating at their proper frequency, whatever that may be, without any interruption, anybody telling them they can or can't do whatever.
You can feel it now. Everybody, I keep telling everybody, 2020, man, that's it. You can feel that vibration now. Like it's getting louder. It's just so crazy.
It's awesome. Well, hey, Candis, I'm going to let you get back to educating the masses. Do you want to let everybody know listening where they can find out more information about your organization?
Yes, they can go to 420opencarry.com, and it will take you to our Facebook page, Cannabis Open Carry Walks. And if you go on there, we've got a live feed that just happened recently that we went around the convention and interviewed a whole lot of people. So if y'all can go check that out, see what the convention was about and who all was here in Texas and the laws and stuff, go check that out.
That's great, man. So the whole global cannabis community can live vicariously through your feed. How awesome is that?
Awesome.
Thank you so
really
much.
Is. I've talked to so many awesome people.
Yeah, I believe it. I hope to get out there to you soon. And thank you for taking time out to chat with us for a minute. We'll let you get back to what you're doing.
For asking me. And I love you.
We'll see you out there on the road, hon.
Peace.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity.
Weed! Free the weed! Free the weed! Free the weed!
What's up, you guys, man? Thanks for hanging in there. We just landed in Sacramento. We are going to the Cal Exit event. If you want to learn about Cal Exit, Google it. It's 2020. It's simple. So, for we, the cannabis people, this week, it only seems fitting to spotlight who I think should run as the VP. I think this year. The oh so amazing Spencer Allen Boston. Did you guys hear this stuff? All right, I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it directly from the news, and then we're going to watch the video. So for those of you listening on Blog Talk Radio through Coffee Party USA, make sure you subscribe to G.I. Mary Jane on YouTube, because if you miss this video, I mean, what are you going to talk about at the water cooler? All right, before we get to the footage, I read this on NBC News just the other day, January 28th. Minivon Burke reported a Tennessee man in court for drug possession is accused of lighting up marijuana in front of the judge to plead his case that the drug should be legalized. I'm not sure what the accusation is. He clearly pulls a joint out of his pocket and lights it up. And before I go on, let's roll that beautiful joint footage. Going to narrate this for those of you who are listening on Blog Talk Radio. This guy's in the courtroom, just got the verdict, not too happy. Pulls a joint out of his left pocket, a match out of his right. He sparks it. He puffs, inhale, exhale, and then the courtroom notices what he's doing. Bailiff walks over, politely escorts him out, and that is that. You know, not all heroes wear capes. I mean, this might seem like some crazy, act of disrespect to some of you, or to a lot of us, because we were programmed to always listen to authority blindly, no matter what. But you know what? Not anymore, folks. Not in 2020. So the article goes on to say that the stunt landed Spencer Aller. So the article goes on to say that the stunt landed Spencer Allen Boston, 20 years old, in jail on charges of disorderly conduct and simple drug possession. So he gets a 10-day sentence for being in contempt of court for this little stunt he pulled. And I wouldn't call it a stunt. I would call it an act of revolution. Okay, we'll just go there. Let's be real. Let's call things for what they are. Yeah, I don't even want to make anybody mad by making this comparison, because we are so programmed to be so divisive and separate ourselves, whether we're gay, straight, black, white, Hispanic, Christian, Jewish. It's insane, and I don't like labels. We're all human beings. However, that being said, I do acknowledge the struggles that certain communities have, and it is no secret that racism is real in this country. And that is more why we need to stop the divisiveness. So, that being said, I'll go on to the comment that I'll make. A long time ago, back when an entire community of African Americans were being treated like absolute shit just because of their skin tone, this awesome lady named Rosa Parks decided to stick her middle fingers in the air and sit at the front of that bus, knowing she would get put in jail. Let's see, who else? Ralph Nader. Ralph Nader wasn't allowed at the Libertarian debates, even though he won the nomination that year, and he got a restraining order that said he had to stay out of Congress, and he showed up anyway, knowing he would get arrested. You see, we've got great people like this in history that fearlessly do what they know is right, despite the status quo. A couple of people come to mind, and I Wikipedia them here on my handy dandy device, brand unnamed. A couple of people come to mind. Now, I was raised Lutheran. Lutheran is a sect of Christianity, because back to the divisiveness, we've all got to, try to separate ourselves from our neighbors for some reason or the other. So who was Martin Luther? We all knew who Martin Luther King was. Well, Martin Luther King's family named him after an awesome activist, and guess what? He grew up to be just that badass. Martin Luther, and this is from Wikipedia, Martin Luther was ordained to the priesthood in 1507. He came to reject several teachings and practices of the Roman Catholic Church. In particular, he disputed the view on indulgences. Luther proposed an academic discussion of the practice and efficacy of indulgences in his 95 Thesis of 1517. Luther taught that salvation and consequently eternal life are not earned by good deeds, but are received only as the free gift of God's grace, just like our right to consume the plants that God gave us. Now, what did Martin Luther do? He was a monk. He wasn't supposed to talk. He wasn't supposed to question authority. He was supposed to keep this whole Bible thing secret because it wasn't published in a language that the common folk could read back then. But legend has it that on October 31st, long before it was ever called Halloween, back in 1517, that Luther nailed a copy of the 95 Thesis to the door at the Wittenberg Castle Church, which in today's day and age is like spray painting a big fuck you on the door of the Roman cathedral. Okay, and from Luther's actions, we got change. We got the Christian Reformation. And that goes on. It's insane. So then we have Martin Luther King Jr., right? So his father was named after this great man and decided to pass that name on to his son in the form of a junior. So when Martin Luther King Jr. was born January 15th, happy birthday, we just passed that, in 1929, this is also from Wikipedia, he was an American Christian minister and activist who became the most visible spokesperson and leader in the civil rights movement. Now, Luther wouldn't have been able to get anywhere if it weren't for the actions of Rosa Parks. So keep that in mind, as we all are a drop in the bucket. We all play a role in the end of Prohibition here. And 20-year-old Spencer Boston is doing his part in that entire revolution. You know, and it goes back even further than that. Gandhi was an activist, political activist, and he believed in the nonviolent principle, which is what the Libertarian Party runs on these days. I hate getting political with you guys, and I'm not a political person, but I think I'm getting more and more political because through the wonders of podcasting and social media, we are able to see that, no, we're not the only ones absolutely tired of the hypocrisy. And since we know that, it makes it a little bit easier to speak out against the injustices. You know, and we shouldn't need that inspiration for others. I'm glad we have it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. And I wouldn't change a thing. But we have this inspiration. We have this inspiration in people like Mr. Boston, like Martin Luther and Martin Luther King, like Gandhi, like Rosa Parks. You know, and then you go back even further to the 1400s, and you have Joan of Arc, who was told she couldn't defend her country and fight for the people, even though she knew she could do it, but she's a woman, and, you know, just because she's toting that vagina between her legs, she can't go out and fight. So she disguised herself as a man, did it anyway, and got burned at the stake for heresy. You guys, the tyranny's not new. But we, the cannabis people, need to keep the fight alive, like all of these great prophets and activists in history. And their names are countless. And for all the names that we know, there are 1,000 names behind them that took small actions in order to make what they did possible. Everything is a collective. Everything reciprocates. Some people call that karma. What comes around goes around. Well, we the cannabis people, we're tired of it. And, you know, I think this story out of Tennessee proves it. So Spencer Allen Boston, if you are listening, we would love to hear from you, buddy. So young and so brave. You know, people would argue that the younger we are, the more we have to lose. We have our whole lives in front of us. And already you know that standing up for what you know is right is more important than being able to maintain any corporate job or position or anything that worships the almighty dollar. Because at the end of the day, it's our character that defines us, not the amount in our checking account. So to you, the cannabis people, I encourage you to soldier on. Channel your inner Spencer. And Spencer, salute to you, sir. You are a hero to millions. we're almost through the broadcast, you guys, and coming up next is the strain of the week. I pre-recorded this one because I found an awesomely strong sativa. And when I say it's strong, it only comes in at 14%. So make sure you stay tuned to figure out how a 14% THC strain of cannabis can be considered strong. What's going on, you guys? Here we are at the end of the show, the strain of the week, and the irony of it all is we're doing a special Wake and Bake edition of Strain of the Week, which is why, as you see, I'm still in ye old jammy shirt here. Why are we doing a Wake and Bake session? Because this particular strain that I found is a pretty strong sativa. And these aren't the sort of things that we smoke at night, folks. So for those of you who don't know, and anybody watching or listening, I'm sure does, indica, couch, sativas make you sore. So we don't want to go and do a strain of the week on a strong sativa in the evening. So good morning and welcome to the end of the show. By the time you're watching, it's going to be about 5:30-ish, but nah. We're stoners, right? Who cares about the time? So I've got my coffee here, and I've got this awesome half ounce of what's called crumbling herb. Some people call it popcorn bud. Some people call it shake. But the awesome people at Native Roots in Colorado Springs call it crumbling herb. And you can get an ounce of this for $50. I picked up a half for $25. And as you can see, they're very tiny buds, so I can't roll that beautiful bud footage for you guys today. I can't do my fun little whoops into the camera, but what I can do through the wonders of technology is project this beautiful picture of somebody else's Jack Flash. Look at all those beautiful terpenes. So it's morning time. I've got my coffee. I've got my chillum. I only use my chillum in the morning because I am not trying to get baked out of my mind in the AM. I want that direct hit. I want to taste my cannabis. And I don't want it to be too much, which is interesting. I'm going to start out right now by telling you guys the only information written on this package is that this has 14.68% THC content. What was... I feel like I heard a scoff around the world. What are you guys shocked that G.I. Mary Jane is smoking a low THC content cannabis? Guess what, guys? The THC ain't what do it. It's just not. There are so many different organoleptic compounds found within cannabis, and terpenes, now that we're able to freely and openly investigate and study these things, terpenes, come to find out, are what's responsible for all those fun feelings that we get and all those different feelings that we get from different cannabis strains. So again, this is Jack Flash. You guys know that I am a sativa diva. I need my focus in the morning. My brain I wake up and I'm all over the place. I've got to slow down. The doctors want to give me Adderall, but I don't like drugs. I don't like drugs. So what do I use? I use nature. Caffeine, cannabis. It works. It's beautiful. Isn't it amazing how Mother Nature just kind of knows what she's doing when it comes to, the things living within this planet? It's crazy. What a novel idea. And speaking of terpenes and low terpene content, it's ironic. You guys hear me talk about terpenes all the time and how I'm upset that you can't find them, and I have to go to Leafly or Weed Maps and look for these things. And when I read them, the tests are coming from different growers, so I don't even know if that's exactly what's in mine. I just have to assume that the strain is labeled correctly and that it is that way. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. Why are you overthinking it, Joey? Because it matters. You meet people who say cannabis gives them anxiety. It's not the cannabis, it's not the THC giving them anxiety. It's one particular terpene that doesn't interact well with their individual endocannabinoid system. So Leafly has some information on this Jack Flash. I'm going to tell you right from the bat. It smells very sweet. Citrusy, like tangerine citrusy. It doesn't have that peppery smell. It does. It's light. There's undertones of that peppery smell that you usually get with the Jack strains, but overwhelmingly sweet. So before I read what little Leafly has to say about this strain Jack Flash, let's take a taste. Oh my. See, there's that pepper. You can taste it right in the back of your palate. Oh, that's delicious and smooth. So smooth. And the taste goes super amazing with coffee for anybody out there who's a coffee snob. Speaking of coffee, I am sipping on the official Civilian Platoon 420, all organic, fair trade coffee that you can find right now at platoon420.com. And we've got CBD coffee on there too, guys. So if you want to support your local activists and the efforts of Platoon 420 when you drink your coffee in the morning, instead of the big corporate entity that somehow thinks a spread eagle mermaid makes people want to drink coffee, you're going to want to taste this. It's a lot more cost effective too. End of shameless plug. So let's see, what does Leafly have to say? Jack Flash. To create Jack Flash, Sensi Seeds, who I'm assuming is the originator, Sensi Seeds started out with their Jack Herrera's gene pool and then crossed it with Super Skunk and Haze. That's that sweet. Jack Flash offers an earthy citrus aroma, impressive yields, and the active cerebral legacy of her Jack Herrera parent. That's super great wording, Leafly. Bravo to whoever wrote this. This hybrid gets its name from its lightning fast onset, which may prove useful to patients needing immediate symptom relief. And I can tell you that I'm already starting to feel a little bit more calmed down in the brain. Things are filing themselves out in the proper brain filing cabinets, and it's wonderful. The only issue that I have here, Leafly and Sensi, since I'm assuming that's who submitted the information, is what's up with this? No data yet. We're gathering more samples to provide you with reliable information. Gosh. And you know, what's funny is the THC content listed here. It says 16 to 20% average, and I've got 14.6%. Again, I've got small buds instead of big colas. So that could be the difference. But data is so different from strain to strain, from grower to grower. And even though you have resources like Leafly to give you this information when it is devoid, as you see, Leafly doesn't always have that information. So I think it's very important that all of the cannabis markets across the country start to be transparent. I understand it's difficult. We all know that it's much more expensive to operate in the cannabis space than it is in your regular business space. So the added expense of testing can probably be a burden. But what I do know it would be is a help to thousands of patients everywhere. It would help to relieve the stigma on cannabis when people can see that the terpenes inside the cannabis are the same terpenes that are found inside spices and foods that we eat and use every single day. These are not compounds that we should be scared of. Oh gosh, I've got to take another hit of this. Pardon me just one moment. I hate to be rude, guys. Oh, so delicious. By the way, as you all know, I will be touring the country this year with Team and the Fed on No Force One as we travel the country looking for your freedom, trying to go in the back door and end federal prohibition the right way, the quickest way. So if you have any strain suggestions from different recreational and medical markets around the country, email me. If you want me to try to find these things, or you know where I can find them, shoot me an email. Let me know. We can feature your strain review on an episode of The War Room upcoming here in February. Gosh, this is so delicious. And I'm super calming down right now. I think you guys can see. Like I said, sativas are something that act very differently. I think everybody kind of interacts to those indica strains the same way, and that it makes them tired. But the sativas are much more complex, so it's very important that we be able to see this stuff. Now that I can get on to the rest of my day, which is going to include filming the rest of the show, even though it's the end of the show right now. Wonders of technology. So yeah, now that I've got my focus, we're gonna call it a day. I thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for hanging in through the entire show. And thank you to our sponsors, Coffee Party USA. I take liberty with my coffee. And, of course, the Walk for Change, which is a national effort to try to end prohibition that's being organized by dozens of actionable grassroots organizations across the country. Visit walk4change.us to find out how to get involved. If you want to keep up on the End the Fed tour, the Freedom Tour, whatever you want to call it. Gosh, we haven't named it. Send me some suggestions for names, first of all. And go ahead and visit thefreedomline.com. That one's really easy. I'm not going to spell it for you. You should know that. Thefreedomline.com to keep up to date with the tour and see what's going on, see how we plan to end federal prohibition once and for all at the federal level. And email me with your suggestions at info@platoon420.com. That's info@platoon420.com. I'm G.I. Mary Jane, the Commander-in-Chief, signing out, reminding you all to pass joints, not judgment, because we're all in this together. We'll see you next week, guys. Peace.